Christmas movies are a staple tradition for many folks. Whether it's a yearly tradition at the end of December of getting family and friends to see a movie in theaters, or getting together to watch a holiday classic, there's something about the holidays which bring people together for a tradition of watching something specifically wintry together. Now, I'm not trying to sound like I'm saying I'm not like the other girls, but I have my own tradition at the end of this holiday that I've discovered is sort of an outlier to the typical Christmas movie rotation. Every Christmas season, I gather whoever I can, even if it's just me and my cat, and we watch Satoshi Kon's Tokyo Godfathers. This feels like an outlier on one level because it's not a movie that typically gets thrown around in the pool of classic Christmas films, Die Hard, Muppets Movie, Elf, etc., that you need to watch at least once. It's an anime from the early 2000s. But it can also feel like an outlier on a different level because the director, Satoshi Kon, while being a critically acclaimed director and writer, is frequently known for his more popular works such as Paprika, Perfect Blue, or Paranoia Agent. If you're not familiar with Kon or Tokyo Godfathers, then no biggie. This video is going to act as a friendly primer for you, and it's an easy way to explain who director Kon was and why Tokyo Godfathers is not only one of his best works, but why you should also be joining me this holiday season in checking it out. Satoshi Kon got his start directing and writing animes in the late 90s, early 2000s. When you watch his works, you can quickly identify two very quintessential Kon things. Firstly, the stories he loved to tell were nearly always focused on the boundaries of two different worlds and the way that they mix. For example, his best known work, Perfect Blue, is a film that focuses on a J-pop star who pivots her career into acting and is being stalked by an obsessive fan. As the story unfolds, Kon continually shifts and blends the perspective of both reality and fantasy. The main character and you, the viewer, are constantly witnessing something that may be initially thought of as fiction, but then moments later are revealed to be reality, or vice versa. Another great example of this is his work in Paranoia Agent. The story follows the investigation into a juvenile serial assaultant known as Little Slugger, who is committing a string of physical assaults on people with a bent golden baseball bat. As the investigation continues, we see the typical Kon exploration on the intersection between two worlds. In Paranoia Agent's case, I'd say that the focus is on the anxiety and stress felt between the public world that people project outwardly and the private world that they often try to hide and feel inwardly. These narrative themes are extremely common in Kon's work, but another identifying feature of his work is his editing style. His use of transitions is famous not only for the elegance and creativity he has in them, but the sheer amount of unique transitions he can fit into a single film. To get a sense of what I mean by this, take a look at this scene transition. Or even this one.
Yes, hello, M&F. Yes.
The editing styles and cuts of Kon are pretty cool, and I'll admit that there's probably no way I can do more justice than the video already made by Every Frame Is Painting titled Satoshi Kon Editing Space and Time, which I'll link now if you really want to nerd out about this kind of thing. With the editing styles and common narratives talked about in Kon's work, you now have a general sense of who the man was as a writer and director. For this video specifically, I want to now transition to talking about a very specific piece of work he did, a Christmas film called Tokyo Godfathers. In case you're worried, this video is going to be spoiler-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, and unless you want to send me a couple bucks, sponsor-free.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
I won't be going into the details of the story of Tokyo Godfathers. Instead, I'm just going to focus on the general plot and themes you'll expect to find in it. The movie begins by introducing the three main protagonists: Jin, an aging man who struggles with his addiction to alcohol; Hana, a transgendered woman; and Miyoki, a teenager girl who's running away from her home. All three characters are homeless. On Christmas Eve, while digging through some trash in an attempt to find a present to celebrate the holidays with, they discover an abandoned newborn baby girl. The rest of the film is their journey to reunite the baby with her parents. As previously mentioned, Kon loved to write stories that dealt with the intersection or breaking down of two different worlds. Tokyo Godfathers, at first glance, appears to be an outlier and exception to his filmography works here. There isn't explicitly a visual or plot device that skips or overlaps between two worlds, like in his other films, that really drives home this motif. However, when we think about the concepts being introduced in the film, like homelessness and abandonment, we see that Tokyo Godfather is a variation, not an exception to the quintessential Kon story structure. While the story isn't about the intersection between two worlds of the abandoned and homeless versus that of the housed and embraced, which is the typical standard Kon formula, it is about the world of the abandoned and how it contains within it a smaller world of embraced families. 3 homeless discarded people take it upon themselves to do the opposite of what others have done to them, or in some cases what they have done to themselves, and take it upon themselves to look after someone else who has been discarded in the trash. The pattern or structure that we're supposed to be looking for here then isn't of contrast, tension, or overlap between 2 worlds, but one polar opposite containing the other. With this lens, you can see this variation of the Kon's motif in multiple concepts. We just mentioned one variation of this being the world of the abandoned containing within it a small world of the embraced. But another example of this Kon motif variation can be seen in the numerous times in the movie where miracles, if you want to call them that, or meaningful coincidences occur. The characters will often find themselves in hopeless or, by all rational or logical accounts, a doomed situation, only for a statistical anomaly to happen to help them continue on with their journey. This happens in scenes that are both so quick and subtle that you're likely to miss them on the first watch of the movie, like this one here, where Hannah miraculously avoids getting hit by traffic just because she happened to turn around and yell at Miyoki and Jen.
What kind of parent abandons their newborn alone in the freezing cold? Those aren't parents at all. Those are devils.
But these miracles also happen in more pronounced and lengthy scenes in the movie. But I'll avoid going into the details about those to keep this video spoiler free.
It's a Christmas miracle.
On one hand, you might think that this narrative twist is poor writing or lazy. It reminds me distantly of the plot device coined by J.R.R. Tolkien called eucatastrophe, which is the sudden turn of events that changes the fate of the protagonist from doomed to safety or from defeat to victory. Tolkien coined this term by affixing the Greek prefix eu, meaning good, to catastrophe. This, too, like the eagle suddenly showing up out of nowhere to save some characters from ill fate, has been characterized as lazy writing. However, to refocus on Kon's case, the motif of the predictable mundane world containing within it these extraordinary improbabilities and miracles makes sense as a theme, and I'd argue is part of what makes Tokyo Godfathers so amazing. In his own words, Kon has said that the work is an attempt to recover the soundness of miracles and chance. The world might, in most cases, be predetermined, and the past ill fortunes doom individuals for future ill fortunes. However, there are moments that can and do occur that are only unpredictable, but can give hope for those in ill fate. This fits nicely as a commentary on the life and world of the homeless folks. Surrounded by factors and things that show the condition to be only doomed, our homeless protagonists continue, in part because of, but also in hopes of, the statistically improbable miracle. And while the world is cold and mechanical, it can and does contain these anomalies and miracles, sometimes more frequently than we assume. I watch Tokyo Godfathers every winter season because I'd argue it's one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made. That's right, I said it. I think it deserves to be among the echelons of great Christmas movies like Gremlins. If you're ever looking for something new, or if you've already seen Tokyo Godfathers and want to rekindle that flame of hope that's central to its story, then I invite you to watch it with me this holiday season. I'll link a currently free version of the film down in the description below and some other platforms so you can check it out at. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope to catch you next time. Take care, happy holidays, and have a great New Year's.